Hey guys, and welcome to. I forgot where my camera was. Then I've moved it, moved it to the side.
Start again.
Sorry. Welcome to the latest in the Sleepy Talk podcast. So before we get started on today's spooky wooky sort of thing, I'd just like to point out that James is actually meditating right now. So that isn't a still picture. He's trying to hold himself as still as possible while talking, like a ventriloquist. So his lips aren't going to move. None of his muscles are going to move at all.
I was say it's an incredible ability I have talking without moving my mouth. Let me tell you,
it's incredible that. I mean, I'm seeing it now live. Wow,
man, I'm doing such a good job, right?
Amazing. So, as usual, PT64 is in. I said James. Sorry, if I can edit that out if you want.
Don't be silly. Don't be silly. It is James, aka PT64. Don't worry about it at all, guys. How are we doing?
So, link will be in the description. You'll see his lovely little retro banner pop up on your screen now. And I think you are actually pointing the right direction. You are!
Way!
So you're pointing in the right direction of where that's going to go. So,
meditating in the right way for once.
Exactly. That's it. So, today we're going to be talking about Bob Lazar, or as we all called him, Bob Laserbeam. I don't know why, but that's just the name of this now. So, Bob Laserbeam. So Bob Lazar, he worked at an area called S4, which is about 15 miles south of Area 51. Now, this guy has been on Joe Rogan. He's been on a few other podcasts, and it's just wild. You know, when someone comes out, you always have that guy down the pub that just comes out with, like, I've been abducted or blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Comes out with these wild stories. And to be fair, mate, the more I've looked into him and the more I've been skeptical, the more I'm kind of believing what he's trying to sell me. And it's really, really freaking me out that I'm believing it.
About that inner conspiracy theorist, eager for the knowledge.
Yeah, we'll get into his actual stories shortly, but there was one video which was saying why Bob Lazar is a liar, and the whole video didn't make sense to me, like why he was a liar. Everything that they said why he was lying could actually be proved as why he was telling the truth, if that makes any sense to you whatsoever.
Yeah.
There was one bit that kind of like he could be a liar for this bit, and it's when I think it was on the Joe Rogan podcast where he asked him a question, a very specific question, and Bob said he had a migraine, so he can't really think straight away of the actual answer, but he spent 2 hours on a podcast answering loads of different questions, but that specific one. And typically I've not wrote down what the question was. So it's a cracking start.
It has to be asked the question, though. I mean, when you've got an answer for everything, and then suddenly you get curveballed. It's like when you've got the answers, you've got the answers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Someone asks you a question, you've got the answer, you answer it. Whether you've, gone over it time and time again in your head just to make sure you memorize the answers, you've got them locked in. But when you've got to think about something, you don't have to think about that kind of thing. Apart from if someone goes, when did we go? What day was it that we went and did that 10 years ago? Yeah, then maybe you've got to think about it. Do you know what I mean? But
so he was talking about element 115, and for someone that was specifically very in tune with this element, the question that was asked about him to go into detail and things about it, he was very shady about it and said, like, I've got a migraine, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So for that, when someone's been working on something and knows all about this element that powers this spacecraft or UFO, it doesn't have to be a spacecraft, it could be an interdimensional craft.
Yeah, absolutely.
He didn't seem to have that much info on it, so it was kind of like maybe they've got him there. They've got him on one piece of information, but the rest, it was kind of like you kind of helping him now. You kind of proving his sort of theories on it, because your argument isn't really founded by anything the main argument was that there was no physical evidence of this. But I mean, we're talking about Area 51, which nobody knew about until Bob sort of blew the whistle on it.
Yeah.
So he's the one that gaslighted the whole Area 51 thing, which is a pretty good legacy in itself. I mean, regardless of what he worked on. So he worked. He went to MIT and he went to Caltech and he was an electrical engineer, and he managed to get a job in S4 in the sort of district of Area 51, reverse engineering these unidentified crafts, which is pretty cool. If it's true, you know.
This is it, isn't it? I mean, if it is, what? But then you'd think that of all the so-called, crashes and visits and all this, that, and the other that we've had, any debris, that kind of thing, you would think that something would exist like that anyway to look into it.
Yeah.
I mean, you would already think that there would be a department for that.
Yeah. I mean, the weird thing as well, and this is one of the things that he brought up in the Joe Rogan podcast, and we're probably going to keep referencing that because it's one of the most iconic podcasts that he's done, other than his like Netflix documentary and stuff like that. It is a vast pool of knowledge, maybe false knowledge, but huge in terms of like
bold claims.
When it came to like the UFO sort of sect of people that believe in it and all that sort of stuff, that like he's like a superhero. So it's without him we wouldn't know about Area 51, and he claimed that they were archaeological findings.
Oh,
so at least one of the 9 ships what he worked on, there was mention that it was an archaeological dig, that they'd found this heavy metal object. So that just goes to show, like, from the last podcast that you were on with us when we were talking about ancient aliens, I mean, it does sort of further, I wouldn't say prove, but it gives credit to that theory.
Yeah, it definitely weighs it in that direction, doesn't it?
He believes that these were the Greys, so the Greys kind of aliens, but he believes that they've been with mankind for 10,000 years, which
really?
100% gives credit to the ancient aliens theory.
Yeah, it definitely would. Yeah, they'd definitely be salivating over that, wouldn't they? that little nugget of knowledge. Yeah, which means they obviously were around at the times when, just like you say, the times we were speaking about on the previous podcast. Yeah, around that time to aid and assist in getting, that the foundations of the building blocks in motion.
Yeah, I mean, for all this research and stuff that I've done on him, I take him at a pinch of salt, because as much as I'd love to believe everything that he says is true and that there is this big government conspiracy in America and that we have been visited by other beings, I won't say spatial or interdimensional or whatever, I don't know. We probably won't find out in our lifetime either. But I take him with a pinch of salt, and the only reason I do that is the amount of money that he's made from these claims.
Yeah.
So the Netflix documentary that was done on him, the actual UFO, them toys that you get once a month in a magazine, and you build like a car, let's say you get car parts every single
I know exactly what you mean. You slowly build it up into the final product over a year's worth of subscription.
So he got a cut out of one of those for a spacecraft. So again, it's one of those where he has made a lot of money, but there are things that are quite shady about how it's been handled, because you'd expect somebody like this to have been snuffed out. Yeah. To be dead or missing.
Definitely silenced
these sort of
in
people,
some way. Yeah.
Yeah, these sort of people don't sort of like, there's never a body found. It's just a missing person.
Yeah, just vanish.
But he's not one of those people. He didn't disappear. However, his records disappeared. He was raided by the FBI twice, but the courts couldn't find any background on him. He stated he studied at MIT and Caltech, but there's no records of him actually going there.
What?
Is it a government cover-up? A lot of people would believe that he would be assassinated by now in order to sort of stop the disclosure of this information. But let's look a little bit deeper into that, and this is my theory. If it's all true, this is my theory. So if he released all of this info to the public and then mysteriously disappeared, wouldn't that give more credit to his leaks?
Well, surely.
Yeah, he'd
Getting
become
the
a
information
martyr.
out there, and then and then vanishing. Yeah, absolutely, exactly like you say. Yeah.
So instead of that, let's say his history is somehow erased from existence, making him look like some sort of pathological liar or a raging loony. So his records were wiped from his old jobs, his degrees were wiped, but there was one in particular that somebody found. So it was a job that he had in Los Alamos, where he was working on you've got me now. I think it was nuclear stuff, nuclear engineering and things. They did chemical testing and things like that. Los Alamos it's a vast sort of
it was
huge
Los Alamos Mason physics facility with the National Laboratory. Yeah, it was.
So he was doing physics stuff. We'll just say that.
Yeah, his alleged employment. Yeah.
Yeah. So they denied his existence. Now there was a newspaper article from the Los Alamos paper where he put a jet engine in his Honda. So that's not focused on, but he was on the front cover of this magazine that showed that he'd put a jet engine in a Honda. Now I'll see if I can find it, but from everything that I researched into, there was no actual picture, because this was back in like the 1980s. So I think it was 82, if I remember rightly. So the other thing where there was actual evidence of this was a phone directory from 1982 showing Robert Lazar on there. That was in Los Alamos. So the phone directory showed that he was part of at least his phone number was at least part of this document. And obviously back then it was all filing cabinets and stuff. It was so easy to just like set fire to something.
Of course, yeah, I was gonna say you just pull one file out and away you go.
And it's also so easy to miss that one thing.
Yeah, that one piece of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the fact that, I don't think there's anyone on record so far that have said, yes, he worked here. I think there's a few that have done it off record, but take that with a pinch of salt too. I mean, I could say that he worked there and that I worked with him.
I was going to say, anything like off the record, it's like,
Yeah, and it only goes to fuel sort of their income. Yeah, so just as much as you can pay someone to delete someone's existence, you can also pay someone to create their existence. And
easily
their cause.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. So, the one of the main arguments against him was that, surely if he went to MIT and Caltech, he'd have classmates that'd say that he was there or not. We're looking at a guy that's had his whole, hypothetically, or maybe actually, had his whole existence destroyed. Like, he's physically here, but any record of him being there
on paper, it doesn't exist,
he's gone. Do you not think that these people would have been approached by said government agents or private agents? And given hush money or told to keep quiet, or they will be snuffed.
Yeah, exactly what I was thinking. It's so easy. I mean, you hear so many stories of it. You see it in so many different mediums of cinema, books, so many different things where it's so easy just to turn up, knock at the door, listen, you know this. Keep hush, otherwise bad things will happen. See you in a bit.
Yeah.
So easy to do that. And again, these people who have just led those normal lives, they went to school, they got a job, they'll just be like, yeah, okay.
It's easy.
What do they owe?
Yeah.
To this man, what do they owe? Unless they're like very close friends, what do they owe to him? Really, they don't know him anymore. They don't exist in each other's lives anymore.
Exactly. This is the thing as well. Like, these people, they could have families. There's the worst thing that you can have when it comes to being threatened is loved ones.
Yeah.
If you have nothing, then you can't really be threatened. You can only be threatened with your own life.
There's no leverage, is there?
Yeah, there's nothing. But if you have a family, and Bob, who we spoke to like 15 years ago, you went to school with, he's now being made out to be this raging loony. And you're the only one that'd step up and do it? No
chance. Yeah, no chance. You're just like, no, sorry. It's like these people have got their own legacy to look after.
Exactly.
And supporting someone who's now supposedly, completely lost the plot. I'm all right for that.
And mate, getting rid of somebody's whole existence, like destroying it from the ground up, like we're talking birth certificate as well. That's gone.
Yeah. Like they have never existed.
Yeah. Imagine like seeing that that's what's happened to somebody who's done that, and then you're the person that would think, oh, that's a good idea to stick up for them.
Yeah.
These people have erased somebody's whole existence, and you think that you speaking up is going to do anything.
It's just...
No, they're just going to do the same thing to you.
Exactly. It's just such a
you
bad
will be snuffed.
idea.
You're a nobody that's released nothing.
Yep.
Like, you can be snuffed. You can have a car accident, or fall out of a helicopter that you never were in.
Yeah, what's he doing out here?
Yeah. Oh.
He loved walking.
Yeah. So, the other thing as well that Bob sort of spoke about was the fact that there were private companies invested in this. We're talking admirals weren't allowed access to these projects.
Really?
These special, I'm sure it was special access projects, so SAP. Admirals weren't allowed into it. They were all privately funded, government funded, privately, and then government again, and then private again, blah, blah, blah. So there was a memo, it's called the Wilson Memo. Now I'm going to get it up on screen if I can. But there was a discussion with an Admiral Wilson and a scientist, and they discussed the idea of putting the technology away and bringing it back out 8 to 10 years later to see if our material science had caught up with it. To enough, basically, to fully reverse engineer these crafts.
Yeah.
So back in the 80s, obviously Bob could reverse engineer certain things, but there was, which the Element 115, which was spoken about earlier, powered a gravity machine.
Yeah.
Now, as far as I know, there is no such way to replicate gravity on Earth. There is no way.
I'm racking my brain, I can't think of it.
Maybe in space, but it's not really gravity, is it? It's kind of like you're just using the Earth's gravity.
Yeah.
And you're floating a bit. So the fact that existed, and there was a guy that Bob's worked with called Barry, who apparently fiddled with it and died. It could repel human flesh. That was the quote.
Well, it is an antimatter reactor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, we're made of matter. You go fiddling around with antimatter, you're going to get anti. Real quick.
Whereas Bob, after Barry's death, Bob was still allowed to tinker with it and look at it, and try and reverse engineer it. And it's kind of like, this is where I kind of believe that this memo thing is a real thing. Of course, anybody can put anything up there and claim it's something.
Yeah.
If you put enough I'll just say firewalls between it, and you lock it up and you encrypt it and whatnot. If you put enough security on it that somebody's going to think it's important and discover it, you can make it seem like it's real.
Yeah.
But it does make sense. So if you put the technology away, bring it back in 10 years and see if we've caught up with it technologically, that we can then do more research on it. Because if you think 20 years ago, we probably wouldn't have known how to do a 4K TV. As a very, very small example. They probably would have been able to do it, but not in public.
Exactly. There was so many instances of them hitting that technological wall.
Yeah.
And saying, look, we know what we need to do, but we can't do it. We simply don't have the tools to do so at this point. We need to file that, come back to it in 10 years' time, and finish it off.
Yeah. Exactly. So, and something like an antimatter machine probably needs another 100 years.
Yeah.
But in this scenario, like, who is in charge of this? Because if the scientists are putting it away and the admirals can't access this special project, the project's locked up, who's looking after that key? Because you'd need security on it.
Of course you would.
It'd need to be privately funded, because there's no way that the government would be able to keep that under wraps, that they're shelling out all this money for 10 years on nothing.
Plus, after a time, they're not allowed, are they? They have to release it.
Yeah, I don't know the American version. I know with us it's 10 years, and then they can choose to keep it under wraps for another 10 years, can't they?
Oh, is that how it works?
I think it's like 3 times.
Myself, and I'll be honest.
Yeah, so for the Falklands in the 70s, there were a lot of stuff that was hushed up, and I don't know the ins and outs of it. I don't want to claim that we were bad or we were good, blah, blah, blah. You know, it was before my time. But there were certain things that were redacted, and every 10 years there's a kind of review on whether they're able to release this to the public. So, and I think the 30-year anniversary was it 30 or 35 year was like 2010, 2011, maybe 2012. I can't remember the exact. I know I was in college at the time, because we were discussing it, part of public services, and saying how it could, if it does get released and published and it's open to the public, it could cause quite a bit of tension between us and Argentina again. But I don't know, because I've not read it and I've not actually thought about it for the last 7-8 years.
Yeah.
So, thanks for that, mate. In fact, it'd be 10 years. 10 years. Yeah. So I've not actually thought about it for 10 years. So it's one of those things. But it's interesting, though, because speaking of like redacted stuff, and there are pilots, like fighter pilots, that have come out and said, we saw something so much quicker than us in the sky.
Yeah.
Weird things that were redacted, and then eventually they've been released. There's the RAF one, so for the British Air Force, Royal Air Force, but UK. There's some from the US Air Force, the Russian Air Force. There's plenty. There's also like commercial pilots that have.
I've had a couple of accounts of that, where the pilot and co-pilot collectively have both seen something like in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like while flying, commercial craft, like you say, absolutely.
So, it does give more credit. The fact of the matter is, it could be that, and this is another one of the theories that I kind of like, is that the Area 51 in particular isn't something where aliens have landed. It's just futuristic technology that they're testing out.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's not necessarily, decommissioning spaceships, laser guns and all this and the other, but like you say, legitimately that future tech site where all the biomech people are getting made.
Yeah,
the super soldier serum,
Yeah, and the Nevada desert is isn't just Area 51 and Vegas here and blah blah blah. It's split up into different sectors. So obviously you've got the nuclear testing site, you've got the chemical weapon testing sites, you've got the airports as well. There's an airport directly on Area 51. There's airports at S4. There's different sections have different sort of things, and to get into a lot of them, you do have to fly in. And that's one of the things that Bob said as well, and that seems to be, so far, it seems to be true. Have you ever tried? Well, obviously we haven't, but you've seen videos of people trying to drive as close as they can to Area 51.
Oh, numerous people. They immediately get set upon by some patrol.
Yeah.
Told to get the hell out of there, yeah.
And that to me kind of probably signifies that people don't tend to drive into these areas.
No.
Because they or maybe they do, but it'd just be a huge security risk.
They probably do, but I think you'd find that if they were doing it, would obviously be like, military-style vehicles, surely. Or your typical black 4x4s with the blacked-out windows. Just the typical, those stereotypical, vehicles that you would expect to go in and out. And if you're rocking up in your Honda Accord, they're going to quickly whip you around, send you on your way.
Yo.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It is just weird. But again, though, you could get a blacked out like Merc and drive in, and I guarantee they'll have picked you up on radar somewhere.
Oh, I mean,
so I don't think people that are going to work.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to be a case of the only thing watching those borders is the human eye.
Yeah,
definitely not.
And also, another thing that Bob said as well was that the shifts were really weird. So he'd be working for like 2 weeks straight. He'd probably like sleep in between on base, but it was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. And they were weird hours like that. So he'd be on a base for 2 weeks and then maybe get some respite.
Yeah, I imagine you probably would have like the bunks there and whatnot. You would have that changeover, but for the most part, yeah, you probably would just be working on this stuff because this is the kind of stuff that they want answers to. So get it done, get it done.
And Independence Day is a good sort of, and I'm not going to put it above because we're going to get copyright claimed again. But there's a scene in that where obviously they go into Area 51, they go inside, and there's just like these hermit scientists that are going mental and are crazy and have just been there for too long.
That's forever.
I wholeheartedly believe that if people did work on alien crafts in Area 51, they would never leave.
Yeah, that's how it'd be, absolutely. You sign your life away to do that. And then when you do stop working there, you do the whole swear to secrecy, we'll know if you don't, yada, 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 that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But ever since that, just referencing it, that is my vision of it from now until the day I die, that. Independence Day Area 51, as far as I'm concerned, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Maybe not the tentacle swinging alien, but that is what it looks like, 100%.
Do you reckon Will Smith would still be able to knock one out with one punch?
Oh,
do you reckon he's still got it in him?
I reckon he probably does.
I reckon, honestly, like, my granddad's still, like, proper solid. Like,
well, that's what I'm talking about, yeah.
I don't think obviously you lose muscle mass and strength, but your bone density still remains. You know what I mean? You're still, and especially because you shrink when you're older as well. So that's like a smaller surface area at the same power. Like a knife. That's gonna destroy someone.
Smaller but still hit as hard.
Yeah. Especially if it's calcified as well. Oh, like the proper old bones that are calcified, so they're just like iron bars hitting you. Yeah. But there's I reckon Will Smith could chin an
alien. Yeah, definitely. When it eventually happens, we'll call on him.
It just took me back to the YouTube rewind where it's like, oh, that's hot.
Yeah.
Just have him punching an alien.
Yeah.
So realistically, Bob's a weird guy. But pretty much what I've got from him.
That much is clear. I mean, the thing is, like we've seen so many times over the course of history with different characters, different people who've like popped out of the woodwork with this kind of stuff. Sometimes people are like mental for a reason, and there is like truth behind these like bold claims, at least to a point. I think when someone seems to be like that initial like raving loony that people go, oh, don't worry about him, ignore him. No, they're not the people you want to ignore. They're the people that you want to at least listen to what they have to say, because it becomes pretty evident when someone has some sort of substance to something, depending on how they talk and react to what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's all in the body language, I feel, and all in the way that they put the information across. When someone's just mental straight off the bat, and when something's like this guy's seen some stuff. This guy's seen some things.
Yeah, it's weird that you say that, because one of the things on the Why He's a Liar video that I watched, they were going off about how he doesn't speak like a physicist, like he doesn't speak like a scientist.
So that's nonsense. That.
Yeah, because he doesn't on the and again I'm just going to reference it again, but on the Joe Rogan podcast, he didn't sound like a crazy guy. He wasn't like, oh my god, it's everything blah 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 blah. He was really chilled out.
Not like what's his name, Alex. I can't remember his name. You know what I mean, though. Not like him.
Yeah. But he was really really chilled out. He was really like. He did articulate himself well. Granted, he didn't sound like a nerd. Like, how Elon Musk has got that sort of essence around him.
For me,
but he's chilled out.
Yeah, what kind of nonsense like correlation is that though? For me, like, yes, you have to be intelligent to be getting delved into the realm of physics, but
exactly.
Why does a physicist have to be this like scrawny, glasses wearing, comb over to the side nerd? Like, I don't understand this whole thing. It's like that's those sort of stereotypes. Yes, don't get me wrong, they exist for a reason, but you can guarantee there'll be many physicists out there that people look at and go, "Whoa, he must be a movie star." You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you don't 100%. Have to look a certain way to be like, I'm good at physics now, because if that was the case, I'd be a physicist.
You've got to think as well, though. These guys that go to like MIT and Caltech, like, they are very, very, very smart.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that they have no social skills.
Absolutely not. No.
And the jobs that they go for aren't exactly low-paid jobs. I don't know in particular, but I'm pretty sure that they'd have had college paid for free. Both degrees.
Yeah.
For Bob, he'd probably had that paid. He'd had a scholarship for that. I mean, going to MIT, you pretty much have a scholarship, don't you?
Yeah, you set it, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah. Caltech as well. That's the California one. That's referencing the Big Bang Theory quite a lot.
Yeah.
That's obviously a good college to go to.
Of course.
And he didn't seem to be lacking any social skills at all.
Yeah, like he wasn't awkward or anything like that. He was just having holding a regular conversation. Yeah, laughing when you laugh. That kind of thing. Just reacting like a normal person, not socially inept.
Yeah. So let's look at Elon. Anyway, for an example, you can tell that guy used to be socially awkward. You can tell that he's become a movie star.
And the thrust into the limelight has sort of fixed it to a point, yeah.
And now he's cool, but he's cool in a nerdy way, because he knows that he's not cool, but he is cool.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he's like, I'm a kid playing with my toys again.
I was going to say, I'm sorry, but if you want to be cool, invent a flamethrower. Let's not mess about. Yeah. Right. Release a flamethrower for the public to buy. You're cool, aren't you? Surely.
Exactly, you're cool. So, it is just weird. Like, you can't really stereotype these sort of people. There's a lot of, like, smart people who are just, like, male and female are hot. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah, exactly right, yeah. It doesn't transfer over again, like, the whole... I mean, that women... There's probably just as many women interested in physics as there are men. Do you know what I mean? Like, most things, it'll be that 50-50 split. And again, You've not all got all these like nerdy, socially inept women doing these subjects, you know. When it comes to science, absolutely not. Like you say, you see some fiery scientists.
Mm-hmm. And this is one of the things, like Big Bang Theory really like wound me up a little bit. Not because it wasn't funny, which it really wasn't funny at all. It just mainly because it was like the bimbo is this hot, attractive blonde. The nerdy girl has glasses. She's got a bit of weight on her, and you know,
I know what you're saying.
And
how could this girl like
weird,
this nerd?
socially inept, like you said. She was socially awkward in the first episodes, and then eventually they gave her a personality. And it's the same with Bernadette as well. Like, she started off really ditzy because she was blonde, but then she ended up being like really smart.
Yeah.
And it's like so weird. Like, all of a sudden when she became smart, she stopped being this ditzy blonde. Like, they changed her personality.
Whereas I have met people who are like, in day-to-day life, you're like, how do you function? And then in an academical sense, they're crazy smart. Do you know what I mean? Like, 100%. I have met these people. It exists, you know, it really does exist, where you have this sort of like ditzy regular personality, but then you're really like on the ball when it comes to like, you know, just your overall intelligence. It can be a legit thing, but I do know what you're saying. It's like personalities don't just go, whoop.
Yeah, but this is the thing. She was ditzy, and then all of a sudden, when it was discovered that she was smart and making a lot of money, when they gave her a job title and stuff, because she did work at the Cheesecake Factory to start with, didn't she?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, obviously she's studying like brain science and microbiology.
So she was
and stuff,
ditzy and blonde and working at a Cheesecake Factory with Penny, and then all of a sudden they thought like, oh, we'll give her a personality.
No, you know what? No, I do think she started off as being like smart. I can't remember though. It's been a while. It has been quite a while. I couldn't say for definite.
Even so, it's not about Bob. Another tangent, but no, these people like one of my very, very good friends from school. Very cool guy. You know, he had like the sort of emo type hair that was really long and swept and stuff like that. Always had girls on his arm, etc., etc. Smart as hell. He's a doctor now. Took a year out doing his medical degree to do an anesthetics course, which should have taken him like 2 years. Did that in a year, then went back to medical school and finished his thing off. And yeah, he's working at the local hospital now. Smart as hell. And that dude, you could send him a picture of like a dimple and he'll tell you whether it's cancerous or not.
Wow,
That's the level that he's at.
Yeah.
He's so smart, and I'm in awe of him because I don't consider myself to be like smart or stupid. I think I'm kind of there, but I can hold a conversation. I can carry. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Nicely sat in the middle.
Yeah, I can jump into stuff that I don't understand and try and understand it, and
Definitely.
like sort of work a conversation around it. But this guy, you could literally show him a picture of an engine, and he'd be able to tell you how to put it together. Just these levels of intelligence are just mad. But he's cool as hell. He's really cool. He's really down to earth. You know, he likes his music. He chills out. You know, it's not like he's this. I need to play World of Warcraft. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly, man. Like, intelligence doesn't dictate your personality. Like, I'm sorry, but it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? You get plenty of people who are super smart, who are really down to earth, nice people. You get people who are super smart, who are up their own behind and unbearable to talk to. It does not dictate how you look, how you are as a person, or anything. You know that who you are dictates who you are. You know, not how much you know.
And I'd just like to clear up, World of Warcraft was the first thing that came to my head, but that's not me saying that everybody that plays World of Warcraft is a nerd that shakes and shivers. Okay? So this is the point that we're making. There is no correlation. I've played it before. I didn't like it, but I've played it. I've got friends who play World of Warcraft. They're not nerds.
Exactly, this is the thing,
they're just,
man. It's
they're just giant children.
It is what it is. You know, yeah. It just is what it is, yeah.
Yeah, there's no correlation with personality, intelligence, and what your hobbies and interests are. Like, everybody is different, so you can't use that as an argument. So the video that I watched, get lost.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. That's ridiculous to make any kind of foundation for a point on. It's just nonsense.
It is. It's stupid.
We've covered the majority of the stuff that obviously, he's covered 1,000 times, this, that, and the other. I mean, if you want a little bit of how can I word it? If you want a little goss on a bit of the naughty side, there are criminal convictions. Supposedly, as it says, I mean, in 1990, he was arrested for aiding and abetting a prostitution ring that was reduced to a felony pondering, to which he pleaded guilty. So
let's go on that.
I mean, that was definitely. I mean, there's your corner right there, naughty, and he ended up doing 150 hours of community service, and undergo psychotherapy. Say again.
Did he do his community service at Los Alamo? Is that why he was on the phone directory?
I was going to say this, isn't it?
There is a correlation.
All coming around, yeah. Apparently so. And in 2006, all those years later, I'm rocking my way out of school, and old Bob and his wife were charged with violating the Federal Hazardous Substances Act for shipping restricted chemicals across state lines.
There was something that I did read that he got raided because he stole some of the Element 115.
Yeah, he has been. I did see that. I can't remember where I saw it, but yes, he was indeed raided because they believed he had substances that he wasn't supposed to be carrying.
Yeah. And he sort of blew Element 115 out before it was like a publicly known element.
Right.
Which is just a bit mental. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I remember hearing, is that he spoke about it and made it public before it was actually on the periodic table.
That's mad.
Which is mad.
I'm seeing here, United Nuclear pleaded guilty to 3 criminal counts of introducing into interstate commerce with aiding and abetting the introduction of into interstate commerce, banned hazardous substances, and in 2007, United Nuclear was fined $7,500 for violating a law prohibiting the sale of chemicals and components used to make illegal fireworks.
Imagine that.
And I'm pretty sure, obviously, United Nuclear was something to do with him. I mean, from what I'm seeing here, it's to do with, the charges stem from a 2003 raid on United Nuclear's business offices. Here you go. Where chemical sales records were examined. And that's the one. That's where they pleaded guilty, to this. Aiding and abetting interstate commerce between illegal chemicals for illegal fireworks.
Mad.
So definitely not shy. I'm going to say definitely not shy. I mean, the thing, for everything we've covered, talking about, for all the things he's been speaking about, the aliens, this, all around that one-centered subject, and then boom, prostitution ring, like out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? Just boom, out of nowhere, the prostitution ring. Absolutely
nerds
mad.
Need loving too.
I know, right? I know. It doesn't say what kind. I mean, maybe those greys were getting put to some use they didn't care for.
But if you've been locked up in an area, in a base, military base, for X amount of time, and you come out and you just want a bit of loving.
He just needs a bit of prostitution ring. That's what he was craving. Most people crave a good burger or something like that, and he was that's not going to work for me. And to think, absolutely, and to think that for aiding and abetting something like that, like we're not just talking, we're talking a prostitution ring here. Like this is, this is a proper big deal. And to think that he only got 150 hours of community service. And he was told to stay away from brothels. Sorry if I didn't include that little tidbit. And he underwent the psychotherapy. I mean, stay away from brothels. From
these illegal places.
I was going to say, stay away from them. We know what you're up to.
I mean, aiding and abetting could literally be going in there and paying for it.
Yeah, like contributing toward it. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. So, I mean, it's the same... But that's the same ropey argument that could say if you buy a pair of, Adidas, Nike, whatever trainers, high brand trainers, then you are also aiding bad things from where they get made. But no one's getting arrested for that.
No, because it's not illegal in their country.
Oh wow, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I do know what you're
simple.
saying. There's loopholes in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the same as like Peter. And now I'm not doing anything publicly against Peter. I won't do that. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. Because that you'll keep me here for hours. But they sort of chastise people for buying certain products, and it's like, so like realistically, like there's a lot of common products that have probably been tested on animals at some point in the last couple of centuries.
Yeah.
Probably aren't now, but they used to be.
Yeah.
And then you're a bad person because you're funding this, you're aiding and abetting this by buying it. And it's like, well, what if I can't have anything else other than this thing because I'm allergic to the other things? Or, you know, it's
not to mention the amount of people in the organisation that will have also used these things without knowing.
Oh, 100%.
Then, you know, ignorance is bliss, though, isn't it? So,
yeah,
you know, it's one of these things. Before you decide to jump on someone's bandwagon, you know, get those facts in order.
Not to mention all the animals that they put down, and they're not going down that rabbit hole.
Nope. That could be another episode.
Yes, the scary real life spooky wookies.
Oh yeah,
many animals.
Welcome to the real world.
Yeah, but we'll not go down that rabbit hole because I don't want to get. I say I don't want to get into an argument with anyone. I really do, but I just don't have the time.
But we don't have the hours it's going to take to go down that.
Yeah, I'm not going to drag you into it either. You know, you can join if you want to, but I'm not going to drag you into it forcibly on this podcast. So we'll go there. You keep your meditating up anyway.
I will.
You've done really well.
I've done well, haven't I, for this? I've done really well. You never, ever believe.
So, just to sort of like finish up, I don't know why I clicked my fingers there. I feel sassy right now.
Oh, love it.
Just to sort of clear this up. So, if the Greys and sort of things were around, right? Do you think that they... I'm going to try and word this as best I can. So you know how we started with the wheel and then we moved on?
Yeah.
And then we had carts and then we had steam and coal trains and things like that.
Yep.
So if these spacecrafts were around 10,000 years ago, do you think that their sort of linear progression on these sort of vehicles and things were as sort of drawn out as ours was? So obviously wheel, then carts, then blah, 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 blah.
I think, honestly, that depends on such a huge variety of factors.
Yeah.
I think it really depends on, you know, where they're originally from and the natural resources they have on offer.
Mm-hmm.
Their intelligence comparable to ours and how much higher it is and how much quicker they're going to find the answers that we can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, those two right there immediately, without even genuinely going down any more of the list, those two right there are such huge factors. Not to mention that they, you know, let's just say for, you know, hypothetically for the moment that yes, they're 100% real. We know about this. They've got the technology, right? Yeah. If they were already at that point when we were still wandering around, you know, crawling around on all fours, it's that proof there. I mean, how, you know, we were literally a brand new species to the universe when they've already been kicking around for who knows how long, because they obviously have to have had, there's your English, a generational, you know, a substantial, you know, like seat on that planet. Like they have to have been there for some serious time, like, or they have to have, maybe it wasn't even that original planet. They could have gone already, for all we know. They could be on their fourth home planet because the rest have been drained dry.
So,
and they have the capabilities to move to a different planet, which is what we don't have because we're too busy paying billions for an Olympics or something. Get a grip.
So, I like where you went with that because I've got some, like, not counter arguments, but just things to, like, think about. So you said the first one being like the materials that they have.
Yes.
Like huge factor, and I mean incredible factor, because there's that element, obviously 115.
It's a dominating factor, isn't it?
Yeah, is a dominating thing anyway, because we hadn't discovered it. So it might not be a naturally occurring substance or element on our planet, whereas they could have had these heavy metals, heavy elements, completely different to what we have, that made it easier for them to advance the way that they've advanced.
Yeah, it could even be a chemical combination of compounds that they have that we don't have,
Yeah,
to form this.
And if they were in our position, going on the intelligence scale, if they were in our position on our planet, maybe they wouldn't have been able to have advanced the way that we have. Because let's be fair, if they have different materials to use, they could advance quicker, but it doesn't mean that they're smarter.
No.
It doesn't at all, because it only takes one person to make something for everybody else to benefit.
Yeah, of course.
So we, obviously you don't anymore, but we drive a car. We weren't the ones that invented the engine.
Nope.
You know, people shoot guns. They weren't the ones that invented the gun.
Absolutely.
You know, it only takes one person with that sort of mindset and I have stolen this from Joe Rogan, but I know you haven't watched it, so I was interested to see where you were going with it. The question anyway.
Right.
So it was interesting to see where you went with it. So I did set you up a little bit, but it was interesting because you are sort of my side of thinking. But I do agree that the intelligence thing, I don't know whether they'd be more intelligent, because in 10,000 years, if they've visited us and they have the same sort of equipment, so if we have newer ships from them that we are reverse engineering now, and we've had archaeological ones, they've not really progressed that far in 10,000 years, depending on whether they can actually travel in time or not.
Don't fix what's not broke, though. If they only have the capabilities to travel across space, which I'm not being funny, they're not traveling at the same time that we would travel. Like, as we perceive time, the man-made construct that we've put in place to, you know, make sure you're not late for work, that they, for instance, because it doesn't exist, it isn't a thing, completely made up, that might not even factor into their world. And they're able to travel, like, as we perceive time, you know, we can get to like Kepler, for instance, which is like Earth 2. It would take like 40,000 years or something ridiculous. I could be completely wrong, but you know what I'm saying? Some ridiculous time at normal speed to get there. Unachievable without FTL travel. However, they can make it to us. Now, I'm not being funny. If we invented FTL travel, I think the last thing they'd be doing would be like, right, how can we make it again?
No, I'm
you can tweak
100%,
like an engine. You make one engine, tweak it, it's now better. It can do more, it can go faster, right? It can, you know, it's got all this, there's more pistons, whatever. I'm not a car man. It can do more. Just exactly the same as they would have with that. Yes, you can tweak it. Oh, we found this. Oh, maybe try adding this into the core. Maybe it'd provide more power, more sustainable. It can get us further. It can go faster. That kind of thing, do you know what I mean? And I do believe it would be a don't fix it if it's not broken. In terms of intelligence, why wouldn't they keep on coming back to Earth with that kind of intelligence? Well, you've answered your own question right there. Because if I was an alien, I wouldn't want to come here either. Because humans are primal, animalistic, and violently dangerous. So I wouldn't want to come anywhere near us either. There's your intelligence right there. Why aren't they visiting all the time then? That's why. Because we are a terrifying, destructive race that if I was in some sort of intergalactic society, I would completely vote against us getting us involved. Completely, I would be against it.
Do you know, we had this same conversation 100%. On the last podcast. We had the same conversation, and I think we came to a different conclusion this time, because we said we're not all that bad. Like, I think we'd be all right. I think, you know, the best of humanity would make it, and now we're like, nah. It's
unfortunately,
like Armsy in the forest.
Man, unfortunately, I do believe there is a higher quantity of bad than good. I really do. I think, unfortunately, it wins out. You know, life isn't a fairy tale. Life rarely has happy endings. And I don't want to be that, like, miserable guy, but it's a fact, right? It's an absolute fact. And it's one of those things where I do not believe, I don't trust I just don't trust it. If aliens landed, it'd all go swimmingly. I really don't. Because there's always like one guy at the back going, "Those aliens offend me."
Yeah. I don't think, like, I get you. I don't think in terms of bad or good. Like, I get there's bad people, and I get there's awful people, but I think it's more like predator-prey kind of thing. If you look at, like, let's see, we did a podcast on this as well, but let's see, for psychopaths, they have no empathy. It's as much as you... Yeah, as much as, like, they are inherently evil, that's a genetic flaw or evolution, whichever way you want to look at it, is that they can't empathize with people.
Yeah.
And not all of them are bad people, but they are inherently predators among sheep.
Yeah.
That's it. They are smart, they're calculating. They don't have the constraints that we have where we care for other things. We care about people. We want to protect them. That is sometimes seen as an evolutionary disadvantage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you watch Man of Steel, there's a very good clip in there where she says that puts us at an evolutionary advantage because they don't care.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously Superman wins because he's my boy.
Yeah. Right.
And you know, humanity comes through. But yeah, it's. There's always going to be bad. There's always going to be good. But back in the day, mate, if you committed crimes, you were dead.
Yeah.
Nowadays, you get 150 hours community service, and we'll leave it on that one.
Absolutely. Mate, it's been a pleasure as always. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming, mate. Appreciate it. Don't forget to check out PT64 over on Twitch. He'll be streaming tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 12 p.m. till 4 p.m. GMT. And also, we don't usually do this, but it's a special time. He is releasing some very, very good Let's Plays on his YouTube channel. So I'll put that link in the description too.
Too kind, sir. Thank you.
You know.
Knocking it up to that double this week coming.
I know. I put you at the top of the description last time. You're getting a double one this time.
Oh, I'm leveling up.
Somebody's wanting a Christmas card.
Hey! He's getting one.
Oh. Right, so thank you so much for joining me, James, and thank you guys for listening. Hope you have an awesome week and take care.